Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Kimchi Kids podcast. On today's episode, we have the pleasure of welcoming a very talented artist here local to Chicago. You can find his work at such restaurants as Oreo, Chung, Kasama, and Esme, to state a few. Please welcome to our show, David T. Kim.
Hey, David, welcome to the show, man. Just wanted to get started off. Maybe you can share just a little brief history of where you were born, where you were raised, how you landed here in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Get up on the mic.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was born in Philadelphia, 1990. I lived there since till I was about the second grade.
Oh.
Yep. And then I came to Chicago, and my family, my brother, my mom, and dad, we all settled in the Glenview area.
Oh, no
suburbs.
kidding.
Yeah. So we lived there, and then I've been there till late 20s, and then now I live in the city.
1990.
Yeah.
90. So you
You
were
went to Glenbrook South.
Yep,
South.
GBS, Glenbrook South.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did not know that. Wow.
You go to GBS?
I went to North, man.
Glenbrook
So
North?
yeah,
Oh,
I went to
nice.
Glenbrook North.
I went there too. I went to GBS.
You went GBS?
Yeah, but
Oh,
he's like way before our time.
Not that much before.
I'm just kidding. No, he was like a year old. He was a year old.
Infinite.
So, growing up, when was it that moment that you started kind of realizing that you had this like passion for working with clay?
I guess it was as long as I can remember. You know,
Oh, wow.
I really liked.
Play-Doh was like the first time.
It was like Play-Doh, like cardboard, mostly
Oh,
paper.
shit.
Like I like folding paper or like origami or
Yeah.
but mostly cardboard was, I think.
Cardboard.
Like my mom used to tell me like she'd always bring home like rolls of paper towels or like boxes from the restaurant when they had it, and then I would just make stuff from it. And I guess I was interested in like shaping material.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool. I've like never heard of cardboard as like a
Yeah.
medium for art, but
You know, you can use anything. You know?
Right,
But
I mean, it makes sense.
If you're bored
cardboard
enough.
is, it has a very like short shelf life if you make like paper swords or like you hit it once and it's gone. But
So what were you making with cardboard?
I made a lot of I think I made like a lot of like Nerf gun looking stuff, and then I'd try to make like lightsabers with like the paper towels and
so
stuff, and it's one of those.
and so your folks being in the restaurant business, food was kind of was it always like very pivotal and the center of like dinner and everything? Was it pretty serious?
It was. I guess it wasn't like we weren't going too crazy yet.
Yeah.
But we'd always like eat together, And
Yeah.
it was like a community. Like they're always working, so you never see them all day. And then like we have like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. dinners are normal,
Right.
Wow.
And then we just like say hey, and then
You'd wait for your parents to get home, and then
yeah. I mean, It's like I would do others. I'd
Yeah.
watch TV or play video games or.
Yeah. But it was important to have dinner around the table for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, me and my brother probably didn't know it till later, but it was important for my parents,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
them.
No, my dad was like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked,
Yeah.
but like he never missed dinner with family.
Yeah, it's
And so, when you were starting to like, when was it that you realized? So obviously, as a kid, you were always creating things with your hands. When was it that moment that you realized that this is something you want to take very serious and you wanted to pursue it as like even education, and a profession?
So I think that was like art was like a last resort kind of thing.
Okay.
And it was like my mom wanted me and my brother to be like like a dentist, lawyer, corporate doctor,
Right.
Of course. Hit the mic, but for me it was like I didn't know why they're telling me to do that, and if I don't know why or if I don't like it or not interested, I give zero like zero like zero fucks. You know? Yeah. So like I don't know. And then my mom always she told me like she found all my sketchbooks and like all my in my notes. You know, there's like no notes. It's just drawings and stuff. So like she was like, all right, well, you know, you should try art school. You know, so I was like, I like applied and you know got in. You know, like I did a little art hog one. You know, or like art teacher like after school art painting and stuff when I was in high school, and that was nice. It got me a little like focused on something, you know. And then I applied to School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I got in. And
Awesome.
That's pretty crazy because I mean, obviously, me and Andy understand what it's like growing up under you know parents that are immigrants here, and there's a added stress growing up on the education, and obviously the expectations of our parents are always like doctor, lawyer. They just want success, right? They want us not to have to deal with the hardships that they dealt with, and it's very rare that you find parents like that are open to supporting your passion for an art, right?
Yeah.
I mean, was there a specific moment you remember where you realized the first time you're like, man, mom's like getting behind me on this and she's encouraging me to take this further?
Yeah, well, she was the one that like found the art book, and she was also the one that was like, oh, you should be like a lawyer. But she was like always aiming really high, like brain surgeon, heart surgeon. You know?
Jeez.
I was like,
It's not even
what
just
the-"
doctor.
Yeah, and I was like, no. But then like once she like saw what I was into, like she was very supportive, and my dad also was extremely supportive too, and like one time we were smoking a cigarette together one time. And
Oh shit.
yeah, and he just took one drag and then he was like, "Charaba," you were like, do well, you know.
Yeah,
and then he was like, I was like, I knew like he was very supportive, you know. It's like he worked in the restaurant industry, you know, which is like that's not easy either. And he's like, you just work your ass off, you know, and just do well, you know. And then that's all I needed here, and I was like, focus, you know. And
Was that a big deal for you to get accepted at the SAIC, the School of the Art Institute here in Chicago?
Well, I still didn't know what type of art I wanted to do after.
Okay.
So I really focused on like, you know, design and visual communications, which is like graphic design and graphics. And like when I went in, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just do this. You know, it's a safe route, and but like there's an extreme disconnect, you know, with the computer and like translating that from my mind to a screen, and I don't have any of the hands-on. And so I started exploring ceramics more, and I was doing ceramics in high school and a little bit in junior high school, and it was just it just clicked. Everything just really clicked for me, like the material wise and the process of everything. And I was like, all right, I'll just keep doing this till I get bored of it. And then I never got bored of it, so it's just kept using it, you know. And that's it.
So, working with ceramics, when did you, and kind of like food for us too, it's like we're kind of rediscovering our culture and, you know, where we come from and where food comes from. Does that kind of relate with your art as well?
Yeah, you know, so like, you know, like Korean American growing up Midwest, you know, it's just like it's like you gotta like choose a side. You know, like you want to be Korean, you want to be American, or like finding your identity kind of thing. And I guess in high school I took a ceramics class just because like I wanted to make an ashtray.
What was his name?
Mr. Webb.
Mr. Webb. Yeah,
Kurt
I took
Webb.
ceramics.
Oh,
Mr.
really?
Webb too.
I think he's still there, you know. Maybe he might be. He's probably like 70.
So did our friend Paul Moon, who threw one of those. What are those sharp things called? The wood with the.
The ribs, or
I think so, but he threw it at Mike.
oh,
and
damn.
stabbed him and got just kicked out of the class. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Webb's still there, but you know, like he was like the most laid back and understanding teacher I've like one of the first ones like that I've ever had, and that was like senior year of high school. And like I told him I was going to a Korea trip, and then he instantly showed me pictures of Korean pots that he was like really into, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that was like, I guess that was like one of the most, like, ceramics was the art form that I was introduced into Korean culture, you know?
okay.
And it's like, oh wow, like this guy's into Korean things, you know?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, you know? And then it was actually like a Korean style that's like super famous, and it's called puncheong, and it's what that's like my favorite style pottery right now.
So
does
can
that
you
mean?
explain what that is?
So puncheong is basically like it's like you use like a dark clay body, and it has a lot of iron in it, which gives it like the brownish of it. And then you put like a white clay, like a porcelain, it's called white slip, but you put that over that dark clay, and then it creates these nice layers of depth, you know. And like so basically they created that style pottery from like, it was like porcelain was like pure white clay, and that's safe for the kings and government
Expensive.
officials.
Oh, okay.
And then so like, you know, the lower class people, they wanted to like emulate that style, so they did the exact same thing, but they can only use that dark clay.
Yeah.
And then what they do is they wrap that white clay around the dark clay. And they're a production pottery, so they're just making like hundreds and thousands of these pots like every day, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so they're basically doing a quick painting on each pot, and you
Yeah.
get very unique pieces.
Custom,
you know?
yeah.
And they're not even thinking about it, and it's just a very amazing like.
Are
style.
there like a typical shape to these?
Mostly it's like teawares, bowls, like that. That's habar. That's called a habar. It's like a tea bowl shape, and that's they do that on vases and many different forms, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like that, you know. It's like the IKEA, or like cheap, fast produced
It's
pots.
like
and-
faux porcelain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what. Is this puncheong right here?
Yeah, it is. And
Oh, cool.
I used a wood ash glaze over it, so it created like the brushstrokes kind of died out, but it's still there, you know. Like if you look underneath the pot, it's got like a it's got like a brown ring to it, and that's the clay body, and it's
Oh, and then you painted over it. Ah, I see.
Interesting.
And this is done on the wheel as
yeah,
well?
yep. And it's like that style is just to me like very humble and honest, you know.
Yeah.
It's you're not intentionally doing something, you're doing it as quick as you can, but you learn from experience like how to do it quick.
Well,
and
yeah.
and it's just like it's a beautiful process, and that's my favorite.
Yeah.
When you went on this trip to Korea after this conversation with your teacher,
Yep.
was it something that you sought? Did you sought out like pottery in Korea when you were on that trip?
Yeah, I did. You know, like there's like different styles of puncheong. Like there's stamping, there's brushing, there's carving and inlaying. And when I went there, we went to Incheon. Incheon's the airport, right? Incheon, yeah,
Incheon, yeah.
And then there's like one of the biggest pottery village in Korea. But when we went there, it was like around after high school, so college trip, or like right before college trip, and it was so like you couldn't find anything, you know. And it's
Yeah,
very,
that was a while ago.
yeah, so like it wasn't developed, and all the master potters are in like their own like house in the middle of nowhere on the hill or somewhere. And then, but we went to a bunch of different like shops there, and I saw a lot of pieces, and I collected a couple from there, and I brought back and gave it to Mr. Webb and stuff. And
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah,
Were you able to find some of these master potters?
not until about 2 years ago, 2 3 years, 2019, and that's where I went, and then I took like a little master class there with him, and he taught me like his techniques and how to make ongi jars as well.
That's
And
so cool.
that like expedited my thought process and like thought process and techniques a lot. You know, it's like I was going off like I was like researching on YouTube and like old websites from like other people that went to Korea with like those film phones, you know, and like it's so hard to figure out how to move the clay that way without like actually doing it or like, from guidance, you know. And that's what was so cool is like you're basically like a short-term apprentice or a
Right.
mini-term apprentice, and he's just giving you like as much information as you can, and that was amazing experience. Yeah.
I think like this whole conversation is so exciting for me. I've been telling Andy that I've been looking forward to talking with you about this for quite some time now because like me and Andy grew up with food, right? Like that was what we were always kind of gravitating towards in our life. And I never understood the significance and weight of what ceramics was in our culture, in Korean culture. And it's so incredibly ingrained into, and there's so much history involved with Korean food and Korean culture, like the utilitarian aspect of it, as well as the art of it. And, it's like our whole life we're worried so much about what's on the plate and like for so little time that I've actually given to like what's underneath the food. And I just love that there's like this deep rooted history. And I don't know if you want to share a little bit about what you've learned ever since then. And as you've taken this career, this profession on.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like clay is a very material-based art, and when you look at, you start from like in a food perspective, it's like you start with the ingredients, right? And like with ceramics, you got to start with the clay, and the clay, like for different cultures, it's depending on where you are, where the mountain and the river meets, like that's just like very, very fine mountain dust, And that's clay, and everywhere is different. All clays are different in every in every region, And like Korea was lucky or not lucky. I mean, they're in a very mountainous area, and they have that ongi clay, which is like that brown clay, but they're also, I think, like they're connected to China, and China has a lot of porcelain history. They're like the king of porcelain, so. And then they have so it's easy to get information like thousands of years ago like that, And Korea was able to create their own style, and that's like East Asian style with like a lot of like using the material and the nice kilns and stuff. And sorry, I got excited. I work alone, so I never really talk a lot about this stuff. So
we're ready to fucking
talk,
geek
man.
out on this, man.
Yeah, like so like. Can you repeat the question again?
Just like, what have you learned? I mean, you've obviously dived much deeper into the history and culture of like what it means, right? Ceramics and pottery in Korea's history, right? I mean, even down to like the kidnapping of some of the top ceramic masters, right? And taken to Japan, like Korea, obviously, like I think like, and I'm gonna make this even harder, but like. Ceramics is such a universal thing, right? Like every culture through time has like had a need to create something as a like utilitarian use for pottery, right? And clay and working with clay. Korea has this like I feel like maybe outside of the art world, under the radar, I would say, of this significance in what they've created there. This style that you're talking about, this art and this beauty of ceramics.
I think
what have you learned about Korea's like culture?
I think the beauty with Korean style pottery is like it's functional at first, and then they would add the details later,
Yeah.
Like with the Puncheong style, it's like they made the bowl first and then they make it white, and that whiteness is what makes the beauty, like the brush strokes that go in there or how they carve into it. And it's very technical, and and then some people are trying to break away from that technicality, but it's still there, like they respect the material. It's from they use that ongi clay, white slip, and then I mean, everyone uses like wood kilns back in the day, but they were able to like create like very, very pure white, clean surfaces with like how they fire the kiln and stuff, and get glazes to melt, and like. Do you know like celadon, Korean celadons?
No.
It's basically like they look like jade rocks. It's Korean celadon. It's basically they had like back then their kilns were like rocket ships. Like back then, like trying to figure out how to get the clay to a higher temperature so it doesn't break down. And so they'll make these giant kilns to like
How hot is it?
Back then it was pretty low fire, so it's probably like 1900 degrees.
Jesus,
And,
that's
yeah.
low.
Just a
Yeah,
light
that's low.
1900. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then mid range is about like 2200 degrees, and then high fire is about 2350 degrees or 1080 Celsius. I don't know the Celsius,
yeah.
but cone 10, it's called cones. So like 10 is basically the high temp where most natural materials and minerals will melt. And so that was the golden temperature you wanted to hit. And people were trying to, like, as you know, it's like over like 1,000-year span period where they can advance the kilns to fire hotter. And basically it's just you make a higher chimney so it'll pull more fire and heat through the kiln so you can heat it up. And then they'll insulate it well. And that's why you see kilns, they have like mud around it and stuff to like keep the heat in.
Yeah.
And then so celadons are basically, you create, like they use like wood ash base glazes. So basically if you take ash and you take a little bit of feldspar, which is like mineral, like granite, dust and all that, like ground up and stuff, you put it on your pot and you get to a certain temperature, it'll melt and it'll turn into a glass. And so that's glaze.
That's where you get that like shiny surface. Okay.
And then basically what happened was they used like an iron-rich clay body. So it's like a brown clay, and they put that stuff over it. And they built a kiln that didn't have that much oxygen in it. So what happens is the atmosphere of the kiln is trying to take energy from like the clay or the wood ash, and you basically get like a very beautiful green like surface, you know. And like Korea's pretty known for that.
So that
style.
dark brown turns to like
That dark brown with the glaze over it.
that like light green, right?
Yeah. And then eventually they changed like clay bodies. You use a whiter clay body, it'll turn more green. But the old ones were like, you know, like that jade green. And those are the ones that are all in the museum.
Right.
That's crazy.
Is that also the color that they would use like on the palace and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that was like, that's pretty before like Buncheon, you know, like that was they developed that early on.
There is something that I learned about like recently with Korean ceramics, and it's this idea of this like perfectly imperfect, right? And I know like the imperfections is something that you emphasize in your work as well. Can you elaborate for people that don't understand this idea?
Yeah, it's I guess it's just like when you make something too perfect, it doesn't look right, you know? Like even with like, let's say like a cylinder, if you have a cylinder that's like super straight, angled, like perfectly 90, it looks kind of awkward. It doesn't look natural, you know? So what happens is they make it a little belly out just a little bit. So it like creates a nice curve, and when you're looking at it, you know, it
feels more natural.
Yeah, it blends in with the background and it looks nice, you know? And I guess with like handmade pottery, there's a technique, there's like a hand technique that I learned in Korea that you basically can shape the pot in maybe like 4 pulls. Because when I say pull is like you're pulling up the clay walls. And so a lot of times people spend a lot of time doing 1 pull, but when you can do it in like really quick pulls, you know, your body flows naturally and it creates like a natural rhythm on the pot. And it's like something like, it's like forms like, you know, it's a curve, but then you look closely, but it's like, it's got little ridges or like, but it still maintains that shape. And like, you can look at like the hand marks in there, and it's like, what is a perfect pot, you know? And there's, I don't know, but it's
whatever you want it to.
Yeah, you know, it's a beautiful process, you know?
Yeah.
So was this imperfection, like this idea of imperfection, is that something that Koreans got from China, like originally? Because when I think of China, like porcelain, I even just a word like growing up, right? Like all your nice, like dinnerware was always called China. I feel like it still is. Is that something that they were practicing as well?
With the Chinese production pottery back then, it was basically like one person would be the guy that digs up the clay, and one person would be the guy that like mixes the clay, and then one person would be the guy that makes one form on that. So it's like a bunch of people doing one
Production lines.
Yeah.
Factory, yeah.
Yeah, one person doing one specific thing on a pot.
We're talking thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
Man, they figured it out so long ago. It's like efficiency.
In our schools, they say Ford figured that out.
No, America did that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and
So you never had this like potter's hand, like this like signature kind of, right? Like
yeah, and it's like they make it so clean that you can't even tell. Like,
Wow.
you know, and like I mean, they might stamp it with like where like the village or the town that it was built, but like everyone, there's like a master trimmer, a master clay maker, master glazer, master painter, and then in Korea, it's like I guess now it's more like, I mean, they'll have apprentice style teaching, but it's like they have different styles, you know, like it's more, I guess, kind of more individualized, but not, it's not so spread out between people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like like you do the whole process, right? From picking out the materials
Yep.
to shaping to glazing to every aspect to the stamp.
oh yeah, Tuesday.
Man.
I think for people out there that don't understand the significance of like the Korean ceramics, right? And they're like, maybe they're listening to this and they're like, well, what does this have to do with like Andy and Thomas and the food, right? It's like this is where all your changs come from, right? Like
Your
this,
kimchi.
This is kimchi. This is your soybean. This is your soy sauce. This is your Korean chili paste. This is your soybean paste. Like all of this stuff, there was like this utilitarian need for all of this beautiful work that was created. And I think that's what's so cool is like, not only like they took something out of necessity, and then they also like took it a step further and made it like beautiful in their own way. And
Yeah.
I wonder like if that was like what kind of was the utilitarian aspect something that you were driving for when you started like your work, or was it more for the for art?
For me, it was definitely so. I was interested in the material, you know, like ceramics and clay. It's that the materials like is basically clay, silica, and feldspar, but silica is in almost every material that's man-made, like glass, plastics, or metal, like everything. Silica is in everything, and like I guess I was just very interested in the material and how it is intertwined into like everybody's life, whether they know it or not. You know, like rocket ships when they're landing, like the bottom is ceramics, it's clay.
Oh,
Like,
Oh, man,
like
man.
they can retain so much heat that they when they land, you know, the clay just doesn't burn up the spaceship. And like telephone lines, you ever see those like spiral thingies?
Yeah.
That's porcelain.
Oh,
Like,
that's
'cause
crazy.
it doesn't conduct electricity, so they use it to like separate. And there's a whole like I guess ceramics is just like it's a whole universe, you know,
Yeah,
like making like pottery is like maybe like 0.1% of it. You
That's
know?
like the most obvious use of
Yeah.
ceramics.
Yeah. And
crazy.
it's like, you know, toilets, bathrooms. It's like glazed porcelain is probably the most sanitary thing in the world, you know, because it's so tight it doesn't absorb
that's so
water
crazy.
or anything. And that's why it's like that's why toilets have always been made out of ceramics in the house, you know.
My mind just got blown. I'm like looking at
You
everything in
making
my
toilets
life.
on that wall?
It's like mycelium. It's like fucking everywhere.
I'm thinking about now like the
Like
center
bricks.
of the Earth being like magma, and this great insulator is in between all that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that's why it exists.
Damn, Chuck, you just took it a little further now. I'm just like, whoa, man.
I'm always out there in the clouds, bro.
Oh my god.
Mushrooms.
So this apprenticeship class that you took in
Yeah.
Korea, I mean, this is a long span between you graduating and you. This was 2000. You said 17 that you went over.
19. Yeah,
19.
yeah.
Wow, right before it. Holy shit.
Yeah, I was gonna try to go like every year, and then you know it just got sidetracked.
Can you get on the mic a little bit more?
Oh yeah.
And how difficult was this to set up with this guy? I mean, I'm
No,
guy. I'm sorry. Let me say his name. Kwak Kyung
This dude.
it was not bad at all. You know, like I followed him since I had Instagram. Like him and his apprentice, I've been following them for like since I got Instagram, which was like after college, you know. And like for me, after college, I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do and stuff. And basically, 2019 they said that they're having like a class, like 2 4-week classes, and then basically you go there, you choose a style of pottery you want to do, and I did like wheel throwing and ongi making, and but then this guy at Kwakante, not this guy, it's Hunting, you know, but he's a master potter. He is a master in like puncheong style, and then he can ongi making, and it's stuff that I was interested in, you know. And he also runs like a production pottery space, you know, like a whole building, and like that, like he's doing all that with like a team of like 5 people. And there's also Marco, and he was the apprentice at the time, and he was like the translator. He's a Italian American, I think, and
he speaks Korean.
he speaks Korean,
fluently?
right? Yeah,
Jesus,
and
of course.
he's and
When you said
he kinda-
Marco, I was like, what?
He said
Marco.
Marico.
Marico.
But yeah, he's like, they just explained how to do everything, and they set up the system, like the schedule so well. And any question you have, you'd ask, and then they'll tell you everything. You know.
How many people were in this class?
I think about 5.
Holy
5.
shit.
Yeah, it's small, you know.
Wow.
But he had like the wheels and the ongi, and he gave us the tools, and it was just like, you know, like we were like making stuff 10 hours a day, you know, like nonstop, and you know, like, point out everything you're doing wrong, or like how to fix your technique.
How impactful was this in your your craft? Like how big of a jump did you have from this course?
You know, I think it was because up until then I was still making a lot of like restaurant wear, and like I was making a lot of restaurant wear, and I was trying to figure out how to make my own style, and like the techniques I learned there, it like really opened up how I can move my clay for my own hands, you know, and like so like pots would look more natural to me, and it was just like it was like one of the greatest experience ever, and it was amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, I've been watching some videos on but like the amount of like physical work that goes into this stuff.
Oh yeah, it's intense.
Yeah, because we were talking about earlier, like there was this one master potter in Korea who. Can you explain?
Yeah, so the eater has a video on the guy that's like making ongi, which are these large
Clay pots.
in Korea, and it's an incredible video because he's so informative, like explaining even down to the soil, and that's why when you say iron content, I'm like, I got you, dude. Like, there's like, and the amount of work that goes into just creating one of these is. I mean, again, it's like all put into this like 10-minute video, but I know when I'm looking at this that, you know, this is like bullet points, man. I mean, there's so much work. This guy is sweating his ass off like
days.
Yeah. I mean, just like using his feet to like press this down to mix the soil properly, and then shaping everything, and just seeing like how thick these like just the base layer was, like it's crazy. And then like that kiln that his dad built, like, first of all, he's just like, yeah, this is the kiln that my dad built. And I'm like, probably took his dad like 50 fucking years, like his entire lifetime, to like finish that to where he wanted it, right? And he's using wood fire to get this, to achieve that kind of heat. And I'm just thinking in my head when I'm watching this, I'm like, someone out there is just like, yeah, I just turn a knob and like I'm achieving that heat, you know what I mean, through mechanics.
You know, yeah, I agree. You know, it's like right now, it's basically you go online, you can click what you need. Like you need this, like let's say Nephilim Signer. It's like a feldspar and or soda feldspar, and you get it delivered right to your door, you know. And like people pack it up into pounds, or like you need 5 pounds, 5.5 pounds of packing in a little bag for you. But these things come from, like back then, these things come from mines, you know.
Yeah.
So they had to find the river where the specific rock is, like break it off there, and it's like boulders, you know. They gotta break up that boulder into little rocks, and then those rocks into smaller pebbles, and then they gotta powder it up, you know.
God.
And then like Like how do they know what's in their clay? You know,
Yeah.
like they gotta fire, like load a whole kiln up so that it fires efficiently, and then how do they know to get that color? You know, and it's like years and years of just
Yeah.
like
Trial
labor,
and error, yeah.
you know,
Oh
and
my
like
God.
like the clay, like ceramics comes from the earth, clay comes from the earth, and knowing what temperature back then with no internet, you can't call your buddy at the next village, you know, you have to send someone, I don't know,
Send the
like,
They gotta
horse.
travel
Yeah,
to
yeah, right.
like no, a little bit hotter.
yeah, and it's already like a couple months later, you know,
That's
it's like
crazy.
shit, you know.
That's nuts.
And even what was that stuff in the water? He talks about a specific like a herb or a grass
when he
or
was dipping in it.
yeah, there was like this like outside of just like soil or clay, it was like this.
Was he dipping the pot in something?
He was preparing the
It's a slip. So
Okay.
basically, it's just basically like watered down clay, and it's got like, you know, like, so like he probably used a lot of ashes in there, like wood ash or like,
There was like a plant material in his
yeah.
in that.
So ash comes from any, it's ash is basically any organic material burned down to an inorganic state. So like, so plants, like let's say wood ash, when you burn down like oak, cherry, any hardwoods, right? You basically end up with its ash, and the ash has like silica, calcium, and basically those are melters and glass formers at high temperatures. So it turns into a glass and it turns into a glaze, and that's the beauty of like ash-fired pots. Is basically you're taking like this.
How do you figure that out?
Dude, I feel like you have like
it's
a
basically-
chemistry like background. Like you
Oh
gotta
no,
have
that's the limit to my chemistry. But it's basically, you know, like they built these kilns, right?
Yeah.
And the kilns are getting hotter every time they design it better, and that they're using wood as a fuel, and so the ash is flying around and landing on your pots in the kiln. So as you're going at higher temperature, they probably looked at the pot and they're like, "Oh shit! Like
there's no
this
ash."
shit's the ash is on the pot, melting. It's glassy, you know. So we can make, if we fire hotter and cover this whole pot in this stuff, it's gonna turn into like a glassy surface, and it's more durable and it's more like sanitary, and so it just naturally progressed like that, you know. Like kiln technology back then is like, it's like spaceships, you know, like rockets, you know, and it's a technology. It's like, well, we can give more bowls to people to eat out of, you know, and like it just made everyday, like, enhance everyday life experience. I guess.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What other things do you make regularly that enhances your daily life?
I guess it's just a lot of experimenting, like, or asking about my hobbies and stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Or just like or different shapes that you think are important to, like, because I've seen you make a lot of your mugs.
Oh
and-
yeah. So I guess like I try to like improve. Like I'll inspect everything I make and try to improve. Or I'll see something, like a lot of my inspiration comes from things I see in the museum. You know, like pots in the back then. You know, like it's like you have to like reverse think on things you see. You know, like, okay, how did they make this? You know, like how do they make this lid so tight, or like the curves on this pot? You know, and right now I guess I'm into like spout pouring vessels. Like,
okay.
And you know, like I like how things like you know
teapots?
when you go to like dim sum, you got that teapot and it just drips like
Yeah.
crazy, you know.
Yes.
Like I want to make
Wow.
a pot that's like, you know, like
That doesn't
just
do
dripping.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't think
But
that was
The
possible.
physics of water pouring out is interesting.
Yeah,
There's
and-
a lot of things you wouldn't expect.
It's all about how sharp the spout is.
Chuck,
and
can you get
then,
on the
like,
mic? I can't hear you.
Sorry, my first day.
Yeah,
I turned myself up later.
it's like like with pouring, there's the pour, and then there's a suction that comes up when you come back, and it's that plus the sharp spout that creates a dripless pot, you know.
Interesting.
But it's like trying to find that perfect shape to, like, it's like when you pour something, it's like the whatever's pouring out just sucks back in. It's pretty interesting, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I've been dealing with my whole life as a sommelier, pouring from a wine bottle. You always catch the lip, you know.
Yeah.
So
You gotta do the twist.
yeah, you gotta do the twist. Even then, you gotta have the serviette to catch the drip. So, and it was just funny because me and Andy, one of our podcasts that we did with someone else, we ate at a Chinese restaurant, And I remember we met him there, and literally we did the tea service right away, and like his entire
Table was
the whole table was covered in hot tea. I want to kind of fast forward to your work and what you're doing right now, because I think it's incredible, and I'm sure for people that are listening out there that have gone and dined at some of these incredible restaurants in Chicago, many people don't realize that they're enjoying that beautiful plate of food off of your work, you know, and the plate and the food are so hand in hand. And especially when you take it to the level where you're creating these custom pieces for these chefs with that dish in mind. How did this whole thing get started? Was it like were you knocking on doors, or did someone reach out and go like, hey, I'm the chef of Oriole and I want a plate from you?
Yeah. So basically, you know, after college, I worked at a lot of like different ceramic places. Like I worked for an artist, ceramic artist, or artist that worked in ceramics, and then I worked at a handmade towel making company with just me and Brian Kerrigan, my old boss. It was just us two. And then I also worked at a production pottery, like small batch production potteries called Circa Ceramics, with Andy and Nancy. And I just took all that stuff that I learned, and I basically created like a business where I can create like handmade ceramic fabrication stuff, you know, like anything. Like I would make tiles, I'll make sculptures, I'll make pottery and custom dinnerware and stuff. And then what eventually happened was I would do art fairs, you know, just sell whatever I want, you know. Like I didn't cross my mind to sell to restaurants.
Yeah.
Because like most of the time I was like, oh yeah, you know, like restaurants don't want to invest in pottery because it's not economic for them, you know.
Yeah.
And then, but it was always in my mind, you know, like that it could work, you know. And I did this art fair, and basically it was like 10 minutes to close. It was a horrible show, you know, like because like especially bringing pots in, it's like 100-pound boxes, you know, like bringing stuff in, and you don't sell anything, and you gotta bring it back, and it's just like you're like demoralized, you know. But I was like, yeah, well, I'll like try to stick it out.
At least they don't go bad.
Yeah, right. But it's like there's that potential to chip too, you know, like you bring it back, you're like, oh shit, you know, like it was like should have just left it there, but you know, but it's yeah, it was like 10 minutes to close, and then there's this guy that's like standing like 10 feet away from my booth.
Yeah.
You know, and like usually I would say like, hey, welcome, this is what I do, when they get to like about 3 or 4 feet, like when they're close, you know? And then he started like slowly coming back, coming. And then once he crossed that like 3-foot line, I was like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? You know?
You just waited.
Yeah. I was just like watching. Yeah.
Just one more foot to go.
And then like, it was just like, I was like, hey, yeah, these are what I do. Like, this is the clay I use. They're dishwasher, microwave safe, you know. They're pretty durable, you know. And then the guy was like, sweet, you got like 24 on you right now? I was like, shit, no, I don't. But I can make 24, you know. And then like he's like, yeah, let me get 24. I was like, yeah, it might take like, I give him like a timeline. He's like, yeah, no, all good. Just bring 24 whenever they're ready. Deliver here. And then he wrote his name and then the restaurant and then the address of the restaurant. And I was like, cool. I was happy because he took all the plates that I didn't lighten the load, and I got like a restaurant commission.
Yeah.
So I was like pretty stoked. And then I looked at it and it said like his name was like Michael Carlson and then Schwa and then address.
shit.
And then I was
Way.
like, cool, this is pretty sweet, you know? And then
Did you know Schwa?
no, I had no idea. But the guy next to my booth was like, dude, do you know who that was? And I was like, no, you know. And then he was like, yeah, he's a famous chef, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, how famous, you know. And so I like Googled it, and it had like 4.85 stars and stuff, and all these news. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I can't mess this up, you know. So like right when I got home that day, I just started making it, and then
Awesome.
it took like 3 weeks to make and stuff. Like I rushed that order because I wanted to make it. And then I delivered it to him and stuff. And then basically he was like, they're great, you know, like he was really happy. And he was like, what are you doing tonight? You know, I was like, oh, I don't know. I was just going to go back to work. You know, he's like, you going to be free later tonight? Just give me 2 or 3 hours. Bring a friend. I was like, what? Yeah, we got you covered. And then,
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, you like just found a table for me and a friend, and we went there and we just ate there at
Yeah.
night, and it was like an incredible experience, you know, because that was the
Right.
first time like I never really went out to like fine dining
Yeah.
and stuff, and it was just like even the atmosphere, you know, it's just like really like chill and you know like small and very
It's like intimate.
intimate and but they were playing like you know like atmosphere in the background and
I love
like,
that.
and hip hop and stuff, so it was really sweet, and like I was like, wow, this I just had such a great time, you know.
Yeah.
And then I was just like came back like 2 weeks later, and they put another order in, you know, like a big order, and I was like, oh, awesome, you know, like, and then I just made that order, and then at the same time, you know, it's like getting that one or two, it's like it's good, but it's not like sustainable, you know. So like I was just thinking like, okay, well I can do this, and then art fairs, and then like I can try to figure out how to sell to restaurants, you know, which that was the hardest part, is like finding restaurants to sell to.
Yeah.
And I guess like what happened was like people started talking, and then I started like me and my brother actually started also going door to door to restaurants.
Yeah.
Like, and I was trying to find galleries, and like I went to this one person, and he was just like, yeah, don't even bother trying to sell the restaurants, you know, like it's not gonna be worth it, you know, for them. And then I was like, nah, fuck that, you know. And then I went to Oreo that day, and then I met
Noah.
I met
Kara.
Jeannie first, Jeannie, and then
Oh,
I met Tim, and then I met Noah and Kara, and then they put in their order, and then so then they put in their order, and then it was just like word of mouth after that, you know, like people just like hearing what I do, where I sell to. Like I went to Temporis too, and I met Don there, and then he bought a bunch of pots, and it's just like one thing led to another, you know.
That's
and
so cool.
And then my old bosses, like they would. They worked in a big industrial building, and then I got in touch with like interior designers, and then they started hitting me up, and then it was just like a bunch of different projects that just started coming along, you know. And it's pretty
Crazy.
yeah, it was
It's cool, man. I mean, like never give up, right?
Yeah.
You were like 10 minutes to close on that shop, and those 10 minutes, like, you know, as far as we know, I mean, changed your life, right? I mean, right now, at least, it's put you where you are today. And you've recently done work for even Jenner, and we went to Esme, and I love how they emphasize the plate as much as the food. And when I heard your name on that course, I was just like a little inside. I was just like, "Fuck yeah!" Like that's so awesome.
yeah. You know, and I still love how like people like they're also nice and respectable. You know, everyone I work with, they're just like they understand it takes time. Like they understand their price point. They don't complain. And they're like it's like I never thought that would happen, you know, because like I thought they were like, nah, fuck that, you know, you know. But it's just like it's I guess like more than the price of things, like it's the respect that I get for like mutual respect for people, you know, and that's amazing, you know.
It's just cool for as much like shit as chefs talk about local ingredients too. To take it one step further and find a local
place.
kind of making stuff. It's like so cool.
You get your clay locally here too, right?
Not my clay. That clay is from Georgia, but for restaurantware, I do use like a more sustainable or like higher quality or not higher quality, more of a restaurant
More
grade.
durable.
Yeah, more durable, you know.
Yeah.
And that one, like if you use like lower quality clay, it won't survive long, you know.
Yeah.
But that clay is a nice clay. It's more my artistic clay, you know.
So
When you say Georgia, are we talking about the state or the?
State, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, do you get like repeat business from these guys, or are you making your plates too durable?
Yeah. No, I remember like Tim and Jeannie told me that this dishwasher dropped the rack and they had to put another order.
God.
So I was like,
no.
I was like, nice. But sorry. And then some like, you know, tip the dishwasher. You know, but yeah, they're
Hell yeah.
You're like, go. No, you said you tipped the dishwasher.
Yeah, they go like, throw them a little $10.
Hey, tonight that rack is falling. That's awesome, man.
But yeah, no, the pots, you know, they last as long as, you know, like normal pots, like normal wear and tear in restaurant, which is that's good quality for pottery.
Yeah.
To stand up to like production line
Right.
ceramics, and it's I've been very surprised myself too. I was like, wow, that thing survived. That's still here. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, because these guys are very light in weight.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah, there's a feel to that like it feels
delicate. It feels
Yeah.
delicate.
It
That's
feels
the-
delicate. It
that-
feels like quality.
Yeah.
Whereas it doesn't feel like this commercial heavy bowl like that I've seen, you know, with the
Yeah.
production stuff.
That's the beauty with, huh?
I read online. Can you hear me? Whee! I read on your website that or I read an article on you that you designed your piece based on a dish, like how small the bite is. Or
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
dish is. Do you have one that stands out for you?
I made this dish for Kasama recently. It's like this. Tim called it the cow catcher. Basically, it's just like one little, like maybe 3¼ inch circle.
Like a ramekin.
Yeah, and then everywhere else has these lines and this rim and slopes down. And I just thought that was one of my favorite ones I recently made. It's like it was a very precise dish. He was like, just make the 3¼ inch or 3⅛ inch diameter in the middle for the food, and then he wants the knife to go in too. So like that was a ratio that I got for him, and like everything else, like the way the lines work and the curves, and it creates a lot of depth in the piece, and that was probably one of my favorites.
How big is the dish itself or the plate itself?
It's about, I think I want to say like 8½ to 9 inches, maybe smaller. So yeah.
Very cool. I want to back up for one question
Yeah.
here, because I feel like as you kind of start getting involved with like the expectation of what a chef wants in front of you, how hard is it to like balance that? Like, hey, this is my style though. Like, there is something that I'm going to put into this work other than you actually creating it. Do you find a challenge with that at times where you're like,
So I guess I always enjoy the process of things, and like when they want something that is like commercially made or looks very, it's not handmade. Like I think that's cool. Like I want to try to emulate that. To improve my own technique to use later. And everything is still going to be mostly made from my own hands. So no matter what, there's going to be differences in mine and theirs, and I explain that to them,
Yeah.
and they always understand. But if they're like, oh, we want it exactly like that, and I'll try, but I won't give them guarantees,
Right.
But yeah, and so I always like the challenge of figuring out how to do things, and that's also like when I go to museums and look at those pots, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And try to figure out how they recreate those things thousands of years ago, and it's fun.
The museum here, do they have like a lot of? Because last time I went to the Art Institute, there was very, very few Korean.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah, right?
I wish it was bigger, but they have a whole vault of pottery, and
That they don't display.
yeah, they got thousands of pieces. Like
Wow.
you go into that area, and there's like a hidden wall, and then you go into that wall, and then there's all these rafters in there.
They've let you in there.
I went there in college, and
Oh, I see.
basically it's where they they do all their research, see if this is a real piece or if it was like emulated or like fake,
Wow.
And it's pretty amazing,
Man.
Would they let you in there if you went back?
Yeah.
Maybe I
And
gotta,
could we go with you?
Yeah, we
I'll
need
be
a
down.
backstage pass to this.
That'd be so dope.
Yeah,
it was weird. It was
that'd
like
be
a
incredible.
wall. It's like a wall, and then
It's a false wall.
Yeah, and then it was like, what the hell?
That's so cool.
Museums are shady places.
Yeah.
When was it that do you feel like you have like a style? Like, is there something signature about what you're doing? Is there always like a focus, or are you just always kind of evolving and just kind of changing things?
I guess when I make my own pots, I try to focus not to use too many tools.
Oh, okay.
And so what happens is like I use a lot of my like hands, or like like go like that, or like measure using the pads in my hands to figure out the dimensions I want. And I don't use any tools, and if I do use any tools, like I make all my tools. So
I noticed that that's like a thing with a lot of pottery makers. They're all creating their own tools out of wood.
yeah, it's like it basically what you're creating is an extension of what you're visualizing, and it creates a unique feel to your own pieces, you know. And when you do that, like everything is based off my hands. It's like the pots are more of a reflection of me, like my body and how I see things and how I proportion pieces. And then I also like make my own glazes, and when you add that, and I have my own firing schedule to see how glazes melt. But when you do that, you just create more unique and interesting pieces, you know.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, you know. It's endless fun. So.
Love that. And your work doesn't end with just plates, right, and bowls. We hosted an event at our restaurant for Johnny Walker with Alexis.
Oh yeah.
And I saw these beautiful mugs that you were making. You're working with more drinkware at all, or
I do, you know, everything, you know.
Right.
Like I say Kasama because I did their entire back wall, the tiling.
Oh,
that green
the
tile.
green
Yeah.
tiles.
Is that the green
Oh,
technique you were talking about
man.
earlier? Or is it just a different?
Oh, that's just a different green, yeah, but it's similar to that.
Yeah.
you know?
Is this behind the kitchen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Okay, wow,
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
that is so cool.
How long does do one of those things take to make?
It wasn't that long. It was just to make one isn't long, but we had to make like 6,000. It was like,
Jesus.
so like it was like that was like early pandemic, but me and my dad did that together, which is super because and then we knocked
Did you
those
yell at
out.
your dad?
No, he actually made it so much more efficient, you know.
Oh, really?
Like he knew how to like place the production line and stuff, and I was like, all right, well, we'll make it out here. But basically, there's something called a pug mill, and it's basically a giant. Let's say it's like a giant stainless steel can with an auger inside, and basically mixes your clay, and then it shoots it out into like 3-inch diameter logs. So it basically extrudes the clay out of there. And what I did was I had some metalworking friend that he created a die for that extruder, and basically you put the clay in and it extrudes like the tile out, and we just cut it to size.
Oh, nice. So a rectangle shoot.
Yeah, and then we just cut it to size, but it was still a lot of work because it's just like, you know, like
How did you decide
6,000
to do that?
anything is a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Man. You asked me to make 6,000 paper planes. I'm like, dude, fuck that, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
How did you decide to like create a contraption that's going to shit out 6,000
When
times?
you roll the first 1,000.
you're like, oh, there's gotta be.
There's gotta be a better way. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
This is a great question. Angeline was put this down here, and I just love it. It's just, but what kind of lessons has pottery taught you about life?
Oh man, so much, you know. It's like it taught me how to see, you know, like physically and in my mind of how I see things in general and throughout life. It's like I learned how to talk to people because I don't like to go out that much. I'm very, you know, like art, like staying, like working in the studio all day. That's my happy place. But you know, like it forced me to try things that, you know, like take all this commission work, like talk to people, how to negotiate and how to make friends. Because like a lot of these people that work, a lot of these work chefs became my friends. You know, like they respect me, I respect them, and it's just is amazing. You know, and they also taught me like how to like see new perspectives of like human respect and like being humble and you know, like respecting like other people's arts as well, you know, which is, you know, like people say, oh, that looks so ugly, but then it's like, why is it ugly? You can't just say it's so dumb. You can't say it's just dumb, you know. You have to say like, you have to know why something is dumb, and then when you actually know why something is dumb or ugly, like it's like, oh wow, it's not that ugly or dumb, you know. It's like once you know, find the meaning of things, it opens up your mind more, you know, to like new possibilities of understanding things, you know. And it's like ceramics is a material base, and it's one of the few materials that in the arts where you're not really removing material, you're expanding it or contracting it to make your shape. Like woodworking, metal, you have to remove material and then you have to put it together. But clay is like one piece, you know, and that's the beauty of it. But like you can, it just like, it's cool.
It's very cool. Yeah, I think like going back to that video, right? The Korean guy that was making that ongi, was like explaining that like this is something he's borrowing, right? He's like the earth
the
and
clay.
nature is providing this material for him,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's creating this incredibly beautiful but at the same time utilitarian object. And then many years down the road, that will be again given back to the earth. Like, and
Yeah.
there's something so beautiful about that as a form of art to me. Whereas like paintings just kind of live. You know, not to shit on painters here, but you know, it's like this thing that it's like it's collected.
This is
And
what
then
this is what the busboy said to Tim. And Tim's like, yeah, all right. Fucking, who's gonna pay for this drop track?
but yeah, you know, it's like this. It's just like there's so many forms of art, and it's just like for what it's worth. Like I think when there's a utilitarian aspect to this art, I think it makes it more beautiful for me because it's not some painting that's gonna like be held in some rich guy's house that no one ever sees, right? This is like. And it's just forever gone.
Just form and function.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like wine to me. It's like nature has provided this bottle of juice, you know, and this juice will be enjoyed by somebody, hopefully, right? Again, you get the same problems there too with some collectors out there, but and then, you know, it's just like this thing that existed once and doesn't exist again.
Yeah.
And I think there's something beautiful about something finite like that.
Yeah, like functional art, it invites conversations, you know, like because like this is gonna hold food, and if you're having people over, you can talk about the pod, you can talk about food in the pod, and then it branches off, you know, and that's what I love about functional art. You know, like, oh, that's a sick handmade head, you know, or something, you know, like you can make me, I don't know, it's just like it's beautiful, you know, like I love craft arts as well, you know, like things that are, you know, like people say, oh, it looks tacky, but it's like. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man. It's art is like a medium for communication, right? Like you do pottery, I make food. Like it's just I'm the same way. Like I hate talking to people, you know, and we have a fucking podcast. But like when it comes to the food, like I can talk about food forever. Like I can talk about what's good, what's not. You know what I mean? Like what's the best meal you've had recently? You know, and like we geek out about food all the time. We argue about food all the time. You know, and it's like it's I think it teaches you right about life, about like that's something that was so important to me about why food is so meaningful in my life is like it saved my life, right? It helped me learn how all of these life skills that you need, right? And it's because we take our craft seriously, and in order to grow and evolve in our craft, we have to learn how to work with people and etc. So yeah, man.
Speaking of food, how do you enjoy, like, do you really appreciate food, or is this just something that
I love to cook. I like
Oh,
to,
yeah?
I mean, I like to grill and chill, you know.
Okay. What do you like cooking? I know it's a broad question, but is there any go-tos that you really love?
I've been really into. I mean, I like samgyeopsal, pork belly, skirt steaks, like meats.
Yeah, we have a restaurant called Perilla. You should-
Oh yeah,
Yeah, man, you should come check it out.
we serve those things.
it'd be great.
So you focus a lot on the grill at home.
Yeah, grill. I mean, I do. You know, like I love stews too. I mean, rice noodles stew. Like
Yeah. What's your favorite jjigae?
kimchi jjigae.
Kimchi
Oh, yeah.
jjigae.
Yeah, like,
What
I
about
also like goat stew. Like what is that?
Yum
sotang. Yeah,
Yum-sotang?
His mom makes
Really?
the best kimchi jjigae you'll ever have.
Oh man, that's hard. Like my dad makes the best.
No, I'm telling you, I thought my mom did too. I don't love her any
She's not
less,
listening
but
to this episode.
she doesn't listen to this
All right,
show.
good.
Safe space.
And any recent restaurants that you've been to that you were absolutely blown away by?
I was in Nashville with my girlfriend a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
but
cool.
We were just walking around, hitting up like random barbecue joints, and there were
Was there any
Was
that
there
stuck
something
out?
that stood out?
we went to like Hattie B's, which
Yeah, the hot chicken.
yeah, that hot chicken was really good, and then we went to Market. They're all like tourist, you know, like places, but It was. We just ate barbecue like
Yeah.
lunch and dinner every day.
And you didn't do husk down there, huh?
Oh no, yeah.
Oh man, you should.
Couldn't get a table, or just
Yeah,
like
is that the Sean?
Sean
Sean
Brock?
Brock.
Oh yeah, no. We're trying to choose like, oh, do you want to do something fancy or do you want to just like walk around?
Is
and
it
just-
fancy husk?
Is it?
I don't know. I don't know. I've never been. So
We went to the burger place that he did though.
oh, cool.
Yeah, that place was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a smash bun or something. Smash
Yeah.
bun.
Smash
bun.
burger?
Smash
Yeah.
burger.
But the bun was like,
They smashed the bun too.
yeah, it was like,
Crazy.
Almost
Sean
like a
Brock.
patty melt, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that. What do you like here in Chicago? Any notables? Have you been to Kasama and?
yeah,
Esra?
yeah, I've been there.
Okay.
They're all. It's so hard to choose, but
Yeah.
you know.
They're all your clients. So how about non-customer restaurants that you've enjoyed?
Me and my brother got these pork from Urupan in Pilsen or something.
Oh.
But
Oh yeah.
but he always orders it and I just come eat. But it's like Urupan and Pilsen, and it's amazing. You know, I love street
brothers
food.
older or younger?
Older, 1 year older, and he's a lawyer, lawyer marine, and I'm an artist. It's just a very interesting dynamic.
Balanced.
Yeah.
You needed him, you know,
Yeah.
the parents.
Does he help you out with your business stuff?
Like when I do shows, and before he became like a lawyer,
Yeah.
he was like studying and figuring stuff out as well. He would help me like load in, load out, or bring it to restaurants.
Yeah. What about with like the business law stuff?
No, he doesn't really help me. Yeah. I just figured that's
just
the-
figure
Too
it out.
expensive an hour, man.
Yeah.
He's like, I love you, but I'm like $500 an hour here.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite fast food that's your go-to?
Oh man, I love fast food.
Yeah, fast food's got to be fast.
Okay, I love McDonald's.
Damn.
Yeah, I like
All right,
the
what's your
Macs.
order there?
I'll get like a Big Mac, chicken nugget, fries, and then all the sauces.
All the
Good start.
That's a
what
classic
what
order.
sauces? What
I'll get the sweet and sour and honey mustard, and they had this like zesty sauce. I forgot, but the ranch. Do they have ranch? I don't think they have ranch. They have ranch. Oh yeah,
I feel like McDonald's has so many sauces. So
yeah.
yeah.
But like sweet and sour ranch and barbecue and honey mustard and ketchup. That's. But I do like a dip, and then I eat one. You know.
I asked this question lately because one, you're very young, and it seems like just when I like listen to you talk, it seems like you're just the excitement you have, right? The enthusiasm for this work, this craft. It seems like you're just scratching the surface, and it seems like you've got this incredible future ahead of you. What are some things that you know, if any, that you have in mind for yourself, and where you want to take this?
So I recently I bought a kiln, or I bought the kiln like last year, and it came about a couple weeks ago, and it's
Speedy.
it's a big kiln, like 20 square feet, and it's like, you can make pieces as big as the kiln, and I really want to utilize making more sculptural objects and like vases or not even functional, and that's what I focused on when I was in school. Like I always just try to make really big pots and as big as like the kilns can go, and it's like I just want to make like big surface areas and experiment with glazes.
I remember Mr. Webb was working on this huge.
Oh, yeah.
It was like this fucking big, and he was doing the
The stamping, like the carving.
carving. Yeah, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
I didn't know how talented he was until I saw
Yeah,
that.
he's amazing.
I thought he was just a dude, like showed us how to like shape clay. But then like, yeah, and then I saw this pot. It was fucking incredible. Literally like as tall as you.
Yeah.
It's just like this, and then the intricacies on the actual like the carving of it. And he was doing all of that with what do you call it?
It's
A carving tool.
Dude, have you gone back and talked to, and does this guy know the success that you're having?
Yeah, you gotta
I
go
don't
do a
know.
talk.
I haven't. Like
It's like, what's up, Mr. Webb?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, you should definitely do that. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's so cool to reconnect with that. I actually frequently see one of my first restaurant managers. He's like one of our biggest regulars at the restaurant now, and it's just so cool. This Jason Limjoko, man, big shout out to Jason. He's probably, I don't know if he listens to this, but He's a big fan of our restaurant. He's also like one of my wine reps. And when I was 19 years old and I was a shithead, like getting stoned between lunch and dinner services, like I was like, he was one of my managers, like, and it's not when I was 19. That's a lifetime ago. So it's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But you should totally reach out to Webb. I think that would be really cool.
There's, I mean, I had, there's like, it's so hard. I'm so bad at doing that, you know, like there's professors. I mean, most of my professors were in college. They're the ones that I'm really close with now. And then the high school, Mr. Webb was like, yeah, he's like, gotta reach out to.
I just love that story about him, like
Showing you.
No, just the Korean, like because it was like ourselves, right? Like our whole life, we're like trying to assimilate and kind of be like, you know, almost hiding this Korean culture of ourselves growing up as we're like struggling with this like identity of like, hey, well, yeah, that's, you know, that's just kimchi. Don't worry about that smell. And like we're trying to be so Americanized, but like to feel that sense of like pride all of a sudden in who you are as a person, and your teacher to be like, hey, did you know this about, you know, your culture and your background? Like, I think that's so cool that he was the first person to introduce that to you. So, where can people find your stuff, man?
That's something I gotta work on, but
You can't find it.
it's I take on so many commissions that I haven't been recently able to make my own stuff. But right now, like the summer is coming up, or it's here now. But I'm gonna try to do more art fairs and sell in person, like meet more of my customers.
Love that.
Yeah, and probably I got a show this weekend, but I don't know if this episode will come out by then. But my next one will probably be in September in Wicker Park, like Division Street. There's a show called Renegade that I always did, and it's
What do they have at Renegade?
Renegade is just basically they closed down Division of Damon for and people will apply, and it's all handmade sold wares and like hats, clothes, posters, paintings, pots, ceramics.
So it's an art fair.
Yeah, it's an art fair. Yeah.
Oh,
And
very
then
cool.
I might do one more in the holiday, but that's to be determined.
Do you have a website that people can?
I do, but most of the stuff I put up there is it's just like whatever I've left over, you know, and it's hard to like balance like taking a high quality photo and then putting it up, and it's like, oh, do I take a photo of one thing or everything, you know, and like they're similar but kind of different, and then people will complain, hey, it doesn't look like the picture, and I'm like, oh, so it's like
Just direct them to this podcast so they understand a little bit more about the beautiful imperfections in your work.
But it is DTKceramics.com.
yes, correct.
And on Instagram at DTK
Ceramics.
Ceramics. Very cool. Anybody you want to shout out?
Oh man, I want to shout out to everybody.
Hell yeah. I love this.
It's like, I wouldn't be here without like, you know, all the chefs I worked with, you know, and it's like they're half of the design of the pieces, you know, like it's their mind, how they visualize stuff, and my hands helping them what they visualize to present how they show their work, you know, and it helped me to learn as an artist as well, like figure out how to make the thing that they're trying to make, you know, and it's just an incredible journey, and I love it.
Awesome.
Well, it seems like it's a journey that you're just getting started on. From what it sounds like, you've already accomplished so much in such a short time, and it's incredible to see. I think it's the ultimate compliment to you that not only is your incredible craft and work absolutely beautiful on its own, but is being paired alongside some of the most incredible food and the creativity of some of the most incredible chefs that we're seeing in the city of Chicago. And we're excited to have learned more about you. So thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thank you.
Everybody, David Kim.